African entrepreneurs are absolutely changing the game. Through sheer grit, audacity, tenacity, and a whole lot of spirit, they are slowly transforming the way we move, share, and trade. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Spotlight by Bertha Tobias, where we tell the raw stories of the young, brave doers and dreamers of our time, where we laugh at our blunders and failures, and where we take hopeful stock of the future of youth entrepreneurship in Namibia, Africa, and beyond. Today in studio, I am joined by the one and only Dr. Esperance Luvindao, medical doctor, public speaker, businesswoman. I'm sure the list goes on, and most recently Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 lister. Dr. Luvindao, I'm going to call you Dr. Luvindao, Esperance. Thank you so much for joining us in studio today.
You're
so very welcome
having
on
me.
set.
I'm very excited, actually. This is something I've been looking forward to.
All right, so we're going to get right into it. So like I said at the beginning, I've done a lot of extensive research into you. So if some creepy details come up, it's okay.
I'm worried
Calm down.
about what you're going to find.
It's okay. So Esperance, you were the last born of 5 children, right? And
I'm the baby.
You're the baby, and you describe your upbringing as tight-knit. And I'm wondering whether that tight-knit family unit has had any impact on the work that you do, how well you're doing, your outlook, what that has meant for your intra and intrapreneurial journey, your origins.
I would summarize it to say I think that one of the things a lot of people don't know about me is both of my parents passed away. So my dad passed away when I was 4, my mom when I was 6. So I'm the last born of 5 children, and already not having your parents meant that we really had to stick together. And I always tell people I'm really blessed because I don't think I've ever found a family that's quite as close as we are. We talk every day, but we're also very supportive. We have come a long way from the time when my parents passed away, which meant that we had to be each other's mom, dad, brother, sister, and everything. And so that for me has always been a foundation. They've always been very supportive ever since I started this so-called journey. So it forms a crucial part of me.
And just on your journey and on your origins in general, so after you finished your secondary school at St. Paul's, you went to study medicine at UNAM.
Immediately, yes.
But you were also pursuing your passions in poetry and public speaking.
Yes.
And I think what we're always all wondering is your strategy for pursuing dramatically different interests at the same time. And I'm sure you've been asked that a lot, and we will keep asking you that everywhere you go, is how do you make the time for such different sort of interests?
Yeah. I think after high school, and then I went to UNAM, that was when the medicine, of course, started. At that point in time, I was not a health advocate. So the health advocacy started about 4 years ago only. I did not want to be a health advocate. I did not actually like medicine per se. I loved helping people, so I ended up in medicine. The love for healthcare came much later. So in university, I was trying to juggle between poetry, and before I became as old as I am now, I used to model, and then the public speaking also. But in terms of finding the time, I always tell people that you make time for what's important. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's not. Until this very day, I'm still passionate about poetry. Every single time someone was asking me, Esperance, so you stopped poetry? I'm like, no, that means you haven't been to one of my speaking engagements recently, because every time I speak, I start with poetry, I end with poetry, or there's poetry in between. I write every single day. It is my escape. But in terms of finding time, I think it's really priority. But also, very importantly, you'll notice that if you watch me close enough, you'll see that in certain periods, I'm focused on certain things. So at this particular point, it's healthcare in this season, in this moment. It doesn't mean public speaking is not going on. I have a fully furbished, fully running public speaking online university. So we can do a lot of things at the same time, but the human nature is in such a way that I can't give my attention to many things at the same time. So I do a lot of things, but you'll see that in a particular season, my focus is on something. And then next season, I suddenly switch and it's Speakers Globe that you see. And then the next season, I switch and it's more the poetry that you see. It is because of that human nature, but I dabble in quite a lot of things.
Yeah. And how do you decide on the seasons?
Generally, I rotate firstly, but also it depends on the need. So you'll notice that what I do very easily is I basically like to work with a calendar. So I'm very picky about my time because I don't have a lot of free time. But it's times and seasons are dictated by, number one, how things are going around me. When I say that, I mean, I knew about the Forbes before it happened.
Yeah.
And the Forbes and the Queen's Award and all of that is more to do with my healthcare journey.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I've had to focus on healthcare. So sometimes my calendar dictates, but other times I'm just rotating.
Okay. So you've been quoted as saying, I'm quoting you.
Okay.
You will run and you will get tired. That's a given, but you can never give up. What is your philosophy for continuing to fight entrepreneurially in your work, even when you don't seem to be getting any return on the work that you're doing?
The generation that we live in now has taught us that you could try something. If it doesn't work, give up and move on.
Yeah.
And that's a very dangerous habit because you very quickly learn to give up. And so that's something you learn from a very young age. For me, I had to learn that fighting spirit from a young age. I tell people this all the time, and sometimes it seems controversial, but when I'm being real, I tell them the world doesn't care that I lost my parents. The world doesn't care about the fact that I grew up as an orphan, that I grew up without much, that I had to walk to school, that I had all these things playing against me. The world doesn't care. And so it's up to you to either make the most of it or feel sorry for yourself. And I quickly had to learn that. So yes, are there a couple of things in my past that were painful, like you're saying, in those painful moments? Yes. But at the same time, you need to ask yourself the cliche question, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And also, once again, the generation that we live in is a very fast food generation.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to do something because of the fame or because they want to be seen or because they want to be noticed. Basically, to summarize, the point is the pain will be there, the difficult moments will be there, and you must remember why you're doing it, number one, yes, but also have a focus and make sure that whatever you do is in line with where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about the pain, I'm also interested in just a more practical level. So where did you source support for your education, right? Because it's, St. Paul's is St. Paul's and, School of Med is School of Med.
Yes.
So without that foundation, what was your community? What was your trampoline for making sure that you continued and you reached for the stars and you touched the sky in the way that you're doing now?
So I started at, Matiatisari Primary School. You do?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so it's in
Katutura. I'm surprised.
So it's a school, it's in Katutura, it's in Vaneira, and that's where I started, grade 1 to grade 3. Now, before my mom passed away, she was a teacher at St. Paul's College. So when I got to grade 3, St. Paul's decided that they wanted to introduce the first grade 4s. And at that point in time, my mom had made a couple of friends at the school, and they said, well, she was an amazing person. I call them my mommies now. So they were her friends, and they said, look, these are 5 children that are absolutely amazing. Let us start a trust fund for them. So together with the help of parents of other children at St. Paul's College, they opened a trust for us. And so my siblings were already there, but I was still at Matiatisari because I was the last born. And then in grade 3, they said, St. Paul's has just opened a door. Why don't we? She's smart. So I went to write the entrance test. I passed, so I got in. So from grade 4 until grade 9, I got through the help of sponsorships from parents, literally. But then in grade 9, again, one of the mommies said there is a scholarship fund called the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation.
You an Alan Gray scholar?
Yes, I was.
Same. That's
did
crazy.
not know that.
Cool. Okay.
So they said there's the scholarship called the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. She's smart. Why not try? So I wrote the test. I got in, and that's how I went through grade 9 all the way to grade 12.
Yeah.
So School of Medicine was NSFAF. I did have
Yeah.
NSFAF also once again. I did want to continue with Allen Gray, but they said they don't do medicine.
Yeah.
So I tried to fight, but it didn't work. So I ended up at University of Namibia, where I did medicine, and then my master's was self-funded. So that's
Okay.
how we made it through.
Okay, all right. Oh, it's a small world. It is a very small world. So I'm very interested as well in the specific work that you're doing.
Yes.
So your One Step at a Time initiative
Yeah.
is quite popular. You've quoted,
you.
you've said that it's the $5 campaign
Yeah.
for us Twitter folk. And it's a simple but immensely powerful philanthropic model. You get
you.
$5 from people and buy, and support hospitals that don't have the resources.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the thought process behind that, and the plans for its future sustainability. And the reason, for anyone who's watching who's like, oh, that's not entrepreneurship. The reason it's important for us to talk about that is because, I think many times we think of entrepreneurship as being something that needs to be outside of an institution or an organization, but it's also intrapreneurially brilliant when you work in a system and you find innovative solutions around that system, within that system. So that's an example of enterprising behavior. So talk to us about the $5 campaign.
Okay, so the One Step at a Time initiative was birthed when I was in the north of Namibia. I'll try and summarize it very Onanjokwe Hospital, yes. So I think the mother is One Step at a Time. One Step at a Time is fully registered, all right, as a company. Now, the $5 campaign is beautiful and it is amazing, but it was started with an aim, number one, to create awareness, because these are the facts. In Africa in general, we have a lot of inequalities within the state hospital system. The aim at that point in time was, number one, to create awareness. Number two, to act as a middleman while I speak to the relevant parties and learn the path to say, how does this work? What is the procurement process? Why are things not working? Why is it that within a country like this or other countries within Africa, we still have an issue of lack of stock of medication, drugs, equipment, whatever the case is? All right. So when I started that process, that was my first contact with the Minister of Health, with previous ministers of health, with other doctors, specialists, and within the healthcare system and structure as a whole. It did absolutely amazing. The $5 campaign on its own as a sub sort of initiative no longer exists. So we don't collect $5 anymore. In terms of sustainability, if you saw what I posted the very first time, I said the aim of this is not to last forever. The aim is to help the number of people that we can help, of which we help thousands of people, which was fantastic. But now the One Step at a Time focuses on other arms. Number one, we focus on medical advice. So what people call medical consultations. I like to refer to it as medical advice instead of consultations because number one, we don't charge. That's the first thing. So it's free. The second thing is that we don't focus on a particular, so it doesn't operate as a medical practice. So people, just this week, I had medical advice or consultation sessions with people from Sierra Leone. I had people from Nigeria, I had people from South Africa. And so I know at the beginning of this year, when I got the award for the medical consultations that we've been giving, one of the things that it's important to understand is, yes, it's medical advice. We don't charge for it, yes, but it's not just Namibia. It is all over. And what we're trying to really break there is the barrier of accessibility. When you talk about healthcare, the biggest problem anywhere in Africa is accessibility. Either people cannot get to the doctors on time or people cannot afford. All of that has to do with accessibility. So what we're trying to do is break that. So someone will message me on Twitter and they will say, hi, doc, I read about your medical advice, free consultations. I am in Zimbabwe. Can we do a session? And we'll say, yes. We'll send them our disclaimer. They'll tell us what the problem is. We do a full disclaimer basically to say that the advice given is solely from our medical knowledge. We do not take any responsibility, obviously, from any adversities, all of that. And then we go ahead. We do a full history. Now, after we've done that, one of two things will happen. If they are within Namibia and not only rural areas, because that was also a big mix-up, the majority of our patients are in urban areas, because in as much as we think a lot of Namibians actually afford medical aid, that's not true. Only 17% of Namibians are catered to in the private sector. The rest, it doesn't matter if they stay in Windhoek, doesn't matter if they stay in Ongwediva, they still don't have medical aid. And a lot of the times accessibility is a problem because they don't want to go stand in lines to wait for 10 hours to see a doctor, but they also can't afford private. So accessibility again is a problem, right? So they will reach out and they will consult. So majority of our patients, no, they were not rural. Majority of our patients were people just that do not have access to medical aid. That's the term that they were looking for that I think got lost in translation.
Got lost in Twitter contention.
It got lost
Yes.
Yeah. So that's part of what we do, medical advice. And then depending on what the diagnosis is, we will either reach out. So what we've done is we've researched the healthcare centers within the countries where we have patients, meaning that if you are in Zambia and you reach out, and I will ask you which town you are in, I don't work alone, we can then say, all right, which are the hospitals nearby that? Which doctors do we know there? Part of our structure. We will reach out and say, I have a patient with this is the diagnosis. I'm referring them to you. Can you take a look at them? We'll let them know, and then that connection happens. If it is in Namibia, we will then call the hospital per se to say, listen, I'm sending a patient. Can you send an ambulance? Yes. Whether they are in Ongwediva, whether they are in Inanna, whatever the case is, they will then do that transport and link the patients. Apart from that, we do outreach as well, because we don't just want people to have to reach out to us. As one of the biggest problems in the rural areas is that accessibility with communication. So majority of people in rural areas at least might have a basic phone. So we're trying to reach them through a USSD system and a text messaging system. USSD system is that we've worked with a telecommunications company in Namibia called Daimoso. So what we do is you can dial a code, and once you've dialed that code free of charge, it will then give you options, either sexual and reproductive health, whether it be contraceptives, STDs, whatever it is. You click on that, and that will then give you access to whatever information you're looking for. If you want information about the implant contraceptive, you get it in your language. So we've done that in the various Namibian dialects. And after that, if you need to get access to that contraceptive, we then have a list of the nearby healthcare centers, and you can then make reference to that, or you can call us and we can arrange that for you. Okay. So there's that. And then there is the outreach that we also do. So it's just healthcare in general, but those are the main arms.
All right. Yeah. And that work, your work in healthcare together with your team, has been recognized through the Queen's Point of Light Award, right? And that's the question I want to ask next as we head into sort of the final stage of our interview or conversation. Not an interview, it's a conversation. raw, honest stories. Yeah. I understand that the Queen's Point of Light Award, and recently, being listed on Forbes 30, under 30, congratulations, by the way.
You.
How has that catapulted your work? But more importantly, how has it, if at all, opened up different, chains of opportunity to you?
Definitely. People are more willing, number one, to listen, and very important, because being in healthcare, it's very important that we realize that, look, somebody said to me during an interview for Forbes, actually, in SA, they said to me, Esperance, I don't know if you've realized that healthcare is $1 billion industry. Why are you not charging? And I said, because there's a lot to be done, and if everybody wants to charge, we'll never get anywhere. And the reason I said that is because of what Forbes has done for me and the Queen's Award has done for me. Is there are a lot of people that are looking at what I do now saying, tell me more and how can I get involved? Which was not happening before. This is international recognition that you carry with you for the rest of your life, which is so important. This week, I went to the British Embassy to pick up the award. It only arrived this week from the Queen. And that for me was a surreal moment, because it reminded me, this is really happening. And I know even at that particular meeting, there were already so many opportunities that were being presented. So every single day, people are reaching out. How can we get involved? How can we get involved? This is not just Namibia. This is everywhere. And the amount of projects that I have already started and gotten involved in just because of these awards is absolutely life-changing. I have gotten in touch with people from all over. I mean, with Forbes itself, we attended the Forbes Summit in April. So I was invited for the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit that took place in Botswana. And that had over 600 delegates from all over the world. They had venture capitalists, people from every sector. And this was an opportunity to mix and mingle. And for the rest of the year, it is literally me expanding in everything that I've already been doing, but internationally, which was not possible for me before because my viewpoint, and I think what it has also done is it's opened. I've generally been a very ambitious person, but this has just done from this to this.
Yeah.
So literally it's opened the room of opportunities, number one, but it's opened my mind. Nothing is impossible. I've worked with people that I've only ever dreamt of working with. Things are in the pipeline that I've only ever dreamt of doing. I think the Forbes and the Queen's Award have been absolutely phenomenal, but they're just stepping stones. Compared to what is happening right now. They're stepping stones.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And so very briefly, talk to us about the Speakers Globe as well. I know you mentioned it briefly, the online university, its current trajectory, its founding principles, your relationship to public speaking, because I think on top of healthcare, that's more of your intrapreneurial work. And then your Speakers Globe, that's really where you sort of, perform as a businesswoman. So talk to us about that before we conclude with your personal, professional, entrepreneurial aspirations for yourself and your team.
Speakers Globe is a public speaking company. We first were only operating in Namibia, and then COVID happened, and we realized that there are people that need to be reached, that want to be reached, but I need to adapt my business model to be able to accommodate people from all over the world. So we changed the model a little bit. We changed it to Zoom. We're giving classes online. Later on, I started doing my master's. And I said to myself, this is fully online. So I obtained a full MBA online. And I said to myself, why can't I just transform my public speaking online? So yes, I still give face-to-face classes. I still do face-to-face workshops. I do face-to-face speaking, whether it be at events all over the continent and across. But the Speakers Globe itself is particularly operating right now as a university that is online. So what you will do is you Google speakersglobe.com. You will get our different courses available, which right now is the beginners, the intermediate, the advanced. And then after that, you can click, you make payment, you start your classes immediately. We have coaches, lecturers from all over the world, not just myself, including psychologists, including drama coaches, including public speaking experts and gurus from the States. So what we've done is literally try and copy the exact model of a day-to-day university, and we've just put it online because that's where the world is going nowadays. And there's absolutely no reason why you have to be in Namibia to learn how to speak from me, because you can do it from home in Mauritius, from the States. We have over 200 students right now that are currently at present enrolled. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal because this is not just Namibia. This is all over the continent. This is all over. And I appreciate the fact that I've always been business-minded. I think that's where the MBA comes in. So always been business-minded, and I love the fact that I could create this form of passive income for myself. So yes, I can work as a full-time medical doctor, but I have this that is ongoing. I have people that are hired to do it, and it shows you once again how you can really dabble in media.
Okay. All right. So we have come to the end of our conversation, but I do want to know, if you could go back in time, what is one thing you wish someone had told you before you started on your entrepreneurial journey? What do you wish someone had said to you and sat you down? So what are you telling the girls that you're mentoring now that you wish you had when you were younger?
Firstly, be open to the fact that you don't know everything. And that's very important because I think when I meet young girls all the time, I tell them this. I say, as a young woman, especially girls, they very quickly, men also, yes, but I mean, I'm a woman, so I'll speak from my viewpoint. I've seen a lot of girls fall victim to, they're inspired, and then later on they get to a place where they start listening to other people, and then they start getting this intimidation, because generally women by nature, you need to teach yourself how to learn from another woman and not get intimidated, because generally, because of, just the way that we are brought up, a lot of women are brought up to feel like the next woman is competition. So I think for a lot of young women, I tell them the same thing: be open to learning. You're not going to know everything, And it's okay to find another woman that is doing absolutely phenomenal, whether she's the same age, whether she's older than you, and say, listen, you're doing really well. Can you teach me? That's very important, because you try and do things on your own and make the mistakes that you don't have to make is because you don't want to reach out and say, listen, man, you're doing fantastic. Can I just hold on to you and we just travel this journey together?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably my biggest message to young women. And I think I can't summarize it to say find a mentor. I think that's very cliche, but be open to learn.
Yeah.
Be open to learn. That's it.
Thank you so much once again, Esperance. Ladies and gentlemen, that was, of course, Dr. Esperance Luvendal, businesswoman, medical doctor, public speaking coach, and public speaking expert. Thank you so much for joining us. This was, of course, Spotlight by Bertha Tobias, where we tell the raw, honest stories that are often painful of youth entrepreneurship in Namibia, Africa, and beyond. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.